Hi, I'm Jeff from Atomic Gamer, and you're watching a video review of Forza Motorsport 4. With Forza 4, developer Turn 10 Studios has improved immensely on their previous entries in this hit racing franchise, but other developers have been hard at work too. Going into reviewing this game, I kept coming back to the same question: has Forza 4 improved enough to keep up with the rest of the competition? The answer is yes, but it might not be by quite the large margin that some would have hoped for. The streamlined and much improved career mode gives players a lot of choices of cars to pick out, and you get vastly more useful rewards for gaining manufacturer affinity. On top of this, the new multiplayer modes greatly expand on the already wonderful online play seen in Forza 3. Races and events can now include 12 players instead of 8, and the inclusion of Top Gear licensing, as well as the UK show's main presenter Jeremy Clarkson, gives some modes a lighthearted feel that helps in what can eventually turn into a very serious business racing game. The stable of cars you can get your hands on numbers at over 500, and at least another 50 plus will become available as paid DLC between now and next April, and after that there'll surely be even more to come. All cars are lovingly crafted with some fine details, and they look excellent even when you study them up close. 20 or so of the world's rarest and most interesting cars can also be explored in detail in the new Autovista mode, where you can use any controller, including Kinect, to walk around cars in a studio, get in them, start the engine, and learn about performance, design, and the car's manufacturers. And Clarkson's snarky opinions shine through here as well.
Of course, it's not perfect. For some reason, they've put far too many buttons on the steering wheel. The dashboard screens are so complicated they can only be worked by Bill Gates, and personally, I'd still rather have the brutal Mercedes SLS. But I can't deny that the 458 is a great car and a proper Ferrari.
Forza 4 includes a new lighting model to show cars in much better detail both on and off the track. The best example of it is how light and shadow play all over your dashboard now, but it also helps immensely around cars' exteriors as well. Sure, the tracks aren't vastly improved over Forza 3 in some cases, and I've become convinced that we need to wait at least until the next gen to see this stuff improved. But it's hard to fault the developers when they're pushing the limits of the hardware and running at a blistering 60 frames per second during races. My favorite new online mode is Rivals, where you don't actually play online at all, but instead are challenged with beating someone else's uploaded Ghost replay, including those of your friends if you like. It starts out very easy, but eventually you get into some very technical and exciting racing, and the best part is that this will evolve as players improve over time. Beyond that, there are the new car clubs, which are like guilds or clans from other games, and here you can share paint schemes or car tuning setups, and jump into online races very easily as well. There are a lot of little touches here and there in Forza 4, like the AI that behaves more humanly in straights and corners, as well as when they make mistakes or deal with aggressive opponents. The sound has been vastly improved, with much better engine sounds. The tires sound much better too, and when you combine them with the newly tweaked force feedback and rumble effects, along with a few small changes to a car's visual feedback, it makes it much more apparent when you're losing traction and need to correct. Forza 4 is a very accessible racing game too, with the full range of assists to fiddle with, and then there's the super simplistic Kinect-powered racing where you just hold your hands in the air to steer and, well, that's about it. I wasn't a big fan of this mode since it takes more away from the technical aspects of racing than even playing with the standard 360 gamepad. There's also a Kinect-powered head tracking mode where you use a regular controller or wheel to drive, and then have Kinect watch your head and turn your view inside the cockpit accordingly. But I couldn't get it to work smoothly no matter how I tried to set it up, and having my in-cabin viewpoint rotate threw me off on nearly every corner I attempted. Unfortunately, there are some controller issues in Forza 4, but they're not inside the game. The problem comes with the poor accessibility of good steering wheels. Since Microsoft discontinued their $100 force feedback wheel, players have only a few options, none of which are really very appealing. There's a regular old gamepad, the slightly better $60 wireless speed wheel, which is not a wheel at all, but allows you to drive in the same way you did in Mario Kart on the Wii. And there are some years-old Mad Cat steering wheels that are pretty awful. And finally, there are some high-end models by a company called Fanatec that, well, once you get all the accessories you probably need, like shifters and pedals, that will run you a good $400 or even more. None of this is the fault of the developers, though. But it is important to point out that there's just no solid middle ground for this game, unless you can find a Microsoft racing wheel on the secondary market for a reasonable price. Finally, there are a few other little omissions I'm disappointed with, like the continued lack of weather effects or night races. The loss of the Porsche license to politics between Microsoft and EA hurts gamers more than it does anybody else, and I remain baffled at how Forza still doesn't have any of the new Ford Mustangs made in the last year or two. But still, even with all of that, Turn 10 has done a wonderful job updating Forza with new features, better graphics and sound, and a great selection of cars and tracks. Forza 4 strikes a near-perfect balance with easy accessibility at the start and a smooth learning curve towards serious simulation at the high end, and they've infused fun into nearly everything you can do. Other racing game series have had major improvements in their most recent iterations, but Forza 4 keeps up with them very, very well. Atomic Gamer gives Forza Motorsport 4 a 9 out of 10.